Hello, I'm Kwanguliwewe and welcome to this edition of Africa 360. Two years ago, Joyce Banda entered office with high hopes and even high expectations. Banda became Malawi's president after the death of Bingu wa Mutharika. Her short term in office was not without controversy. But by May this year, Banda couldn't muster a majority vote. In her first television interview since losing the general election, former Malawian President Joyce Banda spoke to Africa 360. The relationship between former President Joyce Banda and the Mutharika brothers hasn't always been sour. Banda moved from the United Democratic Front to late President Bingu wa Mutharika's Democratic Progressive Party. Everyone was surprised when Bingu wa Mutharika chose Banda as his running mate and subsequent vice president in 2009. Even more surprising was Banda's decision to publicly criticize Bingu wa Mutharika's decision to anoint his brother Peter as presidential heir. Banda was kicked out of the party and formed her own People's Party. She was determined to hold on to her seat as vice president. Bingu wa Mutharika's death in 2012 gave way to a bitter feud between Banda and Peter Mutharika. As president, Banda sacked Mutharika and some of his supporters, and then charged Mutharika with treason in March 2013 for attempting to block her ascension to power, a charge he denied. But by this year's election, Mutharika proved more popular and won the presidential vote. Mutharika has publicly extended an olive branch to Banda, but their relationship remains tense. Madam Joyce Banda, thank you very much for speaking to Africa 360. Madam, it's been 2.5 months since the presidential elections were held in Malawi. And of course, Peter Mutharika was sworn in as president. What have you been doing for the past 2.5 months?
I had to leave State House and went to the village. I just discovered suddenly that I don't have a house in Lilongwe. But the Constitution says that the government has to give me a house in Lilongwe. So to wait for that, I went home to my village where we have a retirement home in Katabe.
Now, you were conspicuously not at the inaugural ceremony of President Mutharika. We also didn't see you at the 50th anniversary independence celebrations for Malawi. Why is that so?
Yeah, at the inaugural ceremony, remember the decision to confirm President Mutharika the president took place at midnight, almost midnight. And on the following day, swearing in took place at the High Court. By that time, I had already been told that all the cars had been taken away and that I needed to leave State House. This I was told by the Chief of Staff. So for me, I prepared to go home. But I also asked, was I invited? Nobody seemed to tell me that I had an invitation. But secondly, what also was more important for me was I inquired from my legal advisors whether constitutionally, what I needed to do constitutionally. Because at a time such as that, you have to be very careful to do what is right. So the second question you asked was, how about the 50th anniversary? How come you were not there? I was not in Malawi. I left Malawi on the 29th of June to go on my assignments overseas.
So how would you describe the relationship between your office, which is the office of the former president, and the current government? Has there been any talk between the two of you?
Is there any need to do that? Because I don't know. I don't know whether there's any talks between the office of the former president, Muluzi, and the current president.
Now, in terms of when you were leaving the country, the media covered it quite widely, especially in Malawi. We saw you at Chileka Airport in Blantyre. At that stage, there was a lot of speculation and a lot of fears about a political witch hunt. Can you elaborate on this?
I have not been in Malawi since that time, so I don't know what you're talking about. But the history, our history in Malawi shows that every president that takes over somehow has issues with the outgoing president.
Now, when you came into power, we remember and we recall that, for instance, you did a lot of things which a lot of people applauded you for. For instance, the selling of the presidential jet. You also slashed your salary by 30%. And of course, Cashgate, you went in and decided to fight corruption. Would you say Cashgate was your toughest task as head of state for Malawi to deal with?
If you look at the 2 years, it was all about taking risks all the way. So getting into office, the economy had almost collapsed. But the choices were few. To devalue the kwacha was the first risk. And that, for me, that was the major decision. The second decision that I had to make was even to close down Air Malawi, to sell Air Malawi. Every country takes pride in its carrier. And I was warned again and again that it wasn't going to be a wise decision. So all along, during the 2 years, there have been decisions that I have been discouraged to implement. But for me, it wasn't, do I want to implement this and to be popular? Or do I want to implement this for the benefit of Malawians? The other decision, the final decision, is the decision of Cashgate. So I want to say that all the decisions I made, for me, were paramount. They were difficult decisions, and all along the way, I took risks, realizing very well that I only had 2 years. So in 2 years, you want to make sure that the programs that you implement please the masses. Because if you don't, you take the risk of not being re-elected. When it got to Cashgate, I hope you know that a lot of my money has been plundered in Malawi. Starting with the first administration, we were looking at 1.7 billion kwacha that we were told that we know had gotten out of government. The other government, which is now third government, which is within the 5 years that I saved, the first 3 years, 92 billion went missing.
So how do you react to people who say, but actually the buck stops with you, Madam President?
What do you mean?
They have said that, yes, it's been happening over the years, but it came out into the public
because
under your watch.
Yes,
under your watch.
I brought it out.
But they say as head of state, it was your responsibility to deal with it.
Yes, that's what I did. That's my way of dealing with it, was to bring it out. For me, I feel what I was advised all the time, around the issue of corruption, was don't tackle it. A lot of people will cover it up because that's the easiest thing to do and the best thing to do for you if you want to win an election, because it brings out a lot of things, one. Number two, you're fighting very strong people. People that are benefiting from that will just let you get away with fighting them through fighting corruption. And so for me, yes, indeed, somebody had to put their neck out. And I did. And I'm proud of that decision. It is my sincere hope that President Peter Mutharika, Professor Peter Mutharika, is going to take off from there. Why? Because I believe that as a country, we've made a lot of progress in the fight against corruption. And I'm just pleased that he has mentioned that it is his intention to continue with that fight.
Did Joyce Banda lose because she's a woman? After the break, we ask Southern Africa's first woman president if there's even any merit to this question. Stay with us.
Many people say if it was a man, he would have fought and fought all the way to the courts.
Welcome back. I'm Kwanguliwewe, and this is Africa 360. In an exclusive interview, Joyce Banda breaks her silence on life after the presidency. Joyce Banda was Africa's second woman president and a globally celebrated figure. But inside the country, many argue that her gender was a hindrance. Senior ruling party officials openly stated that Malawi wasn't ready for a woman president, despite Banda's former status as vice president. And former First Lady Calista Mutharika was scathing in her criticism, saying, how could a fritter seller or mandazi seller be a president? But Banda said she was proud to be associated with 80% of Malawi's women. Still, it wasn't enough to win the majority vote in the 2014 election. And even before the results were announced, some analysts believe that Banda's campaign couldn't overcome Malawi's patriarchal society.
I would say Malawi is a very conservative society. It is very patriarchal. And some of the language that we have seen coming out and criticizing Joyce Banda has certainly been, in my view, quite sexist. But at the same time, I won't ascribe that 100% that Malawians voted against her because she was a woman. That's far too simplistic.
Still, Banda believes her loss isn't a loss for all women in politics. So did Joyce Banda lose the presidency because she's a woman? Let's hear what the former president had to say about this. Madam, let's now talk about gender and leadership. Now, a lot of people are speculating, especially gender activists on the region and on the continent as a whole, that you being a female played a role in you not being elected in this last election because Malawi is a patriarchal society. How do you respond to this?
I think that the Malawi elections will not be the best yardstick. It will not be the best case study because there's so much around that election. And I don't want to go into those details. But I know that you know that if we dwell our judgment based on the Malawi elections, we shall mislead Africa. So let us hope that we can continue to encourage other women to get into State House. I truly believe that the future will judge. But I also believe that in the 2 years, my biggest worry when I wake up in the morning, every day, and my day, by the way, started at 7 and ended at midnight, every single day in 2 years, was Malawians must have basic needs. I believe that I demonstrated in 2 years what good leadership can be.
So gender had no role in it?
I didn't get that feeling. I didn't get that feeling because I know that those that were in Malawi, that's what they're saying now. I say this because in the past week, I've received many calls from people that are of your level and mine, but whose parents have told them that we know we lost a good leader because she's a woman. We know, even me conceding and accepting the results was because many people say, if it was a man, he would have fought and fought all the way to the courts. Because there's no way a constitutional issue like that one could have been decided by one judge. So there needed to be an appeal where 3 judges would sit. But I said to myself, is it necessary? Is it necessary for me to allow people to go on the street and fight and kill one another and shed blood? Just because I want to stick to State House, I want to stay in State House. No, it's not necessary.
So after all you went through, Madam, would you encourage girls to vie into politics?
Yes. What needs to happen? It's not women. It's not our fault as women. We are ready to take up leadership, and it is inculcated in us to be good leaders, to demonstrate good leadership, to be kind, to be compassionate, to lead, not to rule.
But how
it's in us. So therefore, it is our male counterparts that must learn to put up with us. They are the ones who must welcome us. They are the ones who must support us. They are the ones who must know that we need to be side by side. We must, it's a great loss for our male counterparts to believe that they can lead the countries on their own, that they can ignore 52% of the people. Kwangu, we are 52% of this world. And the last time I checked, we brought into this world the other half. That people must not forget. So therefore, we need a special place. We need to be there. We need to be sitting at the policy formulating tables. We need to be making decisions. We need to be in State House. We need to be in cabinet. We need to be in parliament. It's not a favor anybody is doing to us, for us, to be in leadership. We are entitled.
But Madam, how do girls and women overcome these obstacles in the power corridors?
Yeah, it is, first of all, we must know that we can't be talking to ourselves. These are the mistakes we've made in the past. We meet in Beijing, and it's all women, and we are talking to ourselves, and we are complaining, and we write beautiful documents from there. But we're talking to ourselves. So whatever discussions we are going to have about nothing about us without us is to be talking to the men as well. They must be part of the discussion. Make them understand that we're not going to be ignored, that we are going to be together, that we are moving together without confrontation, just gradually realizing in our patriarchal society that we must persuade them to understand that we are here and we are ready and we are qualified for the jobs and that we can get into State House and we can grow our economies, and just like I've done for 2 years. Evidence is there. So to answer your question, yes, women must be encouraged to get to State House.
Now, your experience as head of state for 2 years, did you ever have any challenges with the men in government, either in your party or in your cabinet?
No. And that is why I'm saying I have hope that we can do it. It came across from other quarters. But the people, the reason why I have registered a lot of success, as I have just been telling you, it wasn't me who did that. It was a team. It was teamwork. And I was blessed to have a very good team. And I was blessed that I realized the advantage of having women and men sitting together. What happened is now women who are not in my party, maybe men who are not in my party, that are not even in government, just to gain mileage as well. So they would make statements and the announcements and the meaning and outrageous accusations. And what breaks my heart, I don't see that happening now. So when you are a woman, there are a lot of people outside that will take advantage of that. But the immediate people that I had to work with gave me a lot of support. And so, I'm very grateful for that.
So where to now for Joyce Banda? After the break, the former president opens up about life after State House.
Life is larger than State House, and life is larger than being president of PP.
Welcome back. You're watching Africa 360. I'm your host, Kwangu Liwewe. On today's show, former president of Malawi, Joyce Banda, shares the hard lessons she learned and plots her life outside State House. The Joyce Banda Foundation was established almost as soon as Banda established her own political career. Founded in 1997, Banda set up the foundation after she was awarded the Hunger Project's Africa Prize for Leadership for the Sustainable End of Hunger, an award she shared with Mozambique's then-President Joaquim Chissano. Before that, Banda was recognized for her work with Malawi's rural women, founding the National Association of Business Women that lends cash to small-scale traders to launch their own businesses. Banda describes the foundation as her heart and her vision. She maintains that she will continue to serve Malawians through the Joyce Banda Foundation. So, madam, what next for you? Will you continue being leader of your party?
I am PP, and I have to be PP forever, because I'm founder of the party. So I will continue to be a member of PP and continue to work hard to make sure that PP succeeds. But whether you are asking me if I'm going to be the leader of PP, then that is a decision that members of PP must make. We are very, very democratic. So if they call me and tell me, or we go to a convention and they say, no, but this time, your time is up, we think somebody else should lead the party, that's fine. I am not that type of person who will insist. And I have just demonstrated to this world that life is larger than State House, and life is larger than being president of PP. You can continue to serve people in Malawi or everywhere without having to be in State House or being leader of PP. But if PP decides I am the leader, then I shall be.
Which takes me to my next question, madam. We know about your foundation, the Joyce Banda Foundation. Are you continuing with this work, and what new programs do you have in the upcoming months and the years to come?
As you know, the Joyce Banda Foundation was founded by me in 1997. So it is not a foundation that I set up because I was head of state. Because it is 18 years old, 16 or 17 years old, that organization has learned to sustain itself. And by the way, in Malawi alone, people that Joyce Banda Foundation have reached, according to our record, is 1.3 million people. You know, Kwangu, the problem we have had is that we didn't take a holistic approach in helping women attain gender equality and women's empowerment. And I'm talking about Africa, because I truly believe that all the issues, the pillars that define Joyce Banda Foundation's work are what we should be doing if we want women to if we want to achieve MDG 3. The woman must be economically empowered, because if she has income at household level, then she will send her daughters to school. So the girls will go to school. The girls are not going to school because there's no income at the household. So that is my pillar number 2, to encourage as many girls as possible to go to school. The Joyce Banda right now is sending 3,500 girls to school. So this, for me, they must go to school. Because if they're not going to school, the community encourages them to get married. And when they get married, they're having babies too early. So they either die or end up with very serious complications, such as fistula. So my next pillar is women's health and HIV/AIDS. The 4th pillar is leadership. I have found that when you put women in leadership, the issues of women and children are also addressed. I'm a living example, number 1, of when you take a holistic approach and you invest in a woman, she can go all the way to State House. But I also know that when she gets to State House, she will address issues of women and children. Because the first day I got into State House, the following day, I set up the maternal health presidential initiative, which, by the way, now is scattered. But because of the program, the initiative we had for 2 years, we reduced the maternal death from 675 women dying out of 100,000 to 460. There's proof at the UNFPA. So that's my 4th pillar. The 5th pillar is that of rights. Rights for women. Rights around their income. Rights around education for girls. Rights around women's health. And rights around leadership. So this pillar cuts across all these 4. That is what Joyce Banda is. So for me, that is what I'm going to do. And I'm going to continue.
Now you're doing it on a scale, you're doing it in Malawi. Have you thought of expanding it or going global with it? Because
no, the Joyce Banda Foundation is Joyce Banda Foundation International. We've always had offices even outside. So my idea is that we can do more work, both in Malawi and outside. But I also want you to know that we can work in Malawi as long as we are allowed to. There was a time in Malawi we had to do all the work of the Joyce Banda Foundation for 2 years, secretly. So, because we were not allowed. And so, if we are allowed to continue in Malawi, we will continue in Malawi. But if we are not allowed to continue in Malawi, I mean, the whole world is waiting, women are waiting to be supported and to be encouraged. So these are the 5 pillars that define Joyce Banda Foundation's work, and it will continue.
And finally, Madam Joyce Banda, what is your legacy, either in your political life or in your foundation work?
I have sat down and always looked back at my life. Where did it start? So I've always been a little leader, even at household level, even at 10 years old. I just believe that I was meant to be a leader. So it doesn't mean leading, doesn't mean being State House. That is why I'm always at peace with myself, because I bring out the best. I was telling somebody today, when they asked me, we need to start all over again. I said, no, I will not start all over again, because there's nothing to start all over again. What you've seen is my life. What I demonstrated for 2 years is the best I can be. I cannot be better than that. I brought out my very best. Whatever task comes before me, I do it to the best of my ability. So people will look back and see somebody who came and tried so hard to save her people in her country and beyond, but also one who was ready to take risks no matter what the cost, which means that Ever since I was born, I serve. And for me, the people come first, regardless of what price I have to pay.
Madam Joyce Banda, thank you for speaking to Africa 360. Still a servant of the people and determined to live beyond politics. Thank you to former President Joyce Banda for choosing Africa 360 to share her story. Tell us what you think via our Facebook page or tweet us at Africa360_ENCA. You can also send us an email at africa360@enca.com. If you'd like to watch this or previous episodes online, go to www.enca.com/Africa360. And with that, that's the end of this week's show. Join us next week. Thanks for watching.